Welcome to the Great Central Fire. In our new episode, we have George Simmons joining us, a longtime Camp Kooch member and served on the board for many years. We had a great conversation talking about how he got involved in camp back in the 50s, a funny story about flipping a canoe, Arctic trip stories, starting Ogichi, and some key people that he admired during his time up north. So sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy our talk with George Simmons. Boy, this is going to be a fun one today on this episode of the Great Central Fire. I've been looking forward to this special guest. I can't wait to sit down, and I'm sure there's going to be a million stories. Today we have George Simmons joining us. George, I would say that if there was a Mount Rushmore for Camp Kooch, the Simmons name would certainly be one of the names up there for sure. But we thank you for joining us today. And how are you doing?
Pretty well, thanks.
Good.
Although I had a little dental work this morning, so.
Okay. George, I mean, from St. Louis, do you remember how your family found out about camp? I mean, do you remember back? Can you remember where you, and I think your first summer as a camper was in 54, if I remember, if that's correct.
Yeah, I saw a Tumpline article some days ago, though, that said 52, and I think that's wrong. I'm kind of pretty sure 54 was the year, and we ran into camp through a guy named Stub Mole.
Oh, okay. Well, wow.
Back then, who was a football coach at University High School, another community there in St. Louis where we grew up. But camp was a thing of our family. My dad had gone to camp when he was young, and my older brother Paul Simmy had gone to camp, and a year before out in Colorado, and then he and I both went to a boys' camp, actually a boys and girls camp in central Minnesota called Camp Lincoln. I think I went there when I was 11 or 10 or something.
Okay.
When we went there just one year, that was, Camp Lincoln.
Okay.
Anyway, then we ran into this guy, Stub Mall from University City, and I think he introduced us to Kooch back in the day.
Okay. And then another brother you had go there, David, and of course your sister's son.
Yeah, younger brother David. Yeah, went. He went a long time, and son went. And,
oh yeah, I know your sons. We'll get to them. I know.
There's a good family history in there. Mm-hmm.
And now professionally, George, you're retired now. What you were in the oil business, correct? Were you always in that?
No, pretty much in the oil and gas business the whole time, exploration side.
Okay. And you were down in Texas for a while, if I remember right.
Well, I started my career down in Fort Worth with the old Pan American company that was later brought out by Amoco Corporation, that now is a part of British Petroleum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like all the industries kind of went through a number of mergers and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Retired now, living the good life. You're in Florida, and you still spend your summers.
Pretty much retired, and we moved to Florida here 2 years ago.
Okay. And still have your place at Grindstone up on Rainy Lake.
Oh yeah, we've had that since 1997. We've had a place there on Grindstone Island, and we sure enjoy it. We go there every summer now.
Yep.
I think we spend right at 6 months there.
It's great. Hard to get away from that place, isn't it? Once it's in you, it's in you.
It is. Yeah, it's. There's some roots there since 1954 or whatever.
Well, I remember as a kid, like if I remember, I mean, the whole Simmons clan would like rent out basically the whole island view. Your parents came up and I just remember going over there. That was just such a big thing for me as a young kid in a camper. And of course, my parents up there was the final week and all of the alumni coming back and seeing all that was such a big thing. And your family was such a big part of that.
Well, they were over the years, from the time they sent us to camp. It seemed like they always came up for a visit, either at mid-season or at the end of the season to visit. And then Dad became a great friend of John Holden's back in the day, and then also served on the board of directors that he had, and actually was on the board, I think, with when John was leading the founding of the Camp and Education Foundation to get Kooch on a nonprofit basis. And anyway, that I can remember those days. And John and Dad were great friends, and drank a lot of whiskey together.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we're good friends.
That's great. No, that's two great people, and big part of this place where we are today. That's for sure.
You bet.
My dad has told me a few stories, and I like to tell stories.
Oh boy.
But you were in his canoe one time, and coming back or somewhere a few times you flipped his canoe because it was too hot. What was that all about?
Well, I can remember we were paddling down the lake. It was dead quiet, and the sun was just beaming down. It was probably 90 degrees, and he was the sternman, and he was kind of complaining about the heat. So I stood up on the gunwale of the canoe and tipped us over. And
what'd he say?
He wasn't very happy about that. All the gear floating around in the lake. So.
Probably got a cigarette sweat or something. That's what probably made him mad.
Could have got his smoke sweat, no doubt.
But this is what's great about this place too, George, is so that you were in my dad's canoe, and then I had your son Jeff on a trip. He was not in my canoe. He was in a camper canoe with his cousin Austin, with Steve Upson and I down the English River. But then I had your son Curtis in my canoe going down the Savant English trip, which was an outstanding thing. It's just amazing the full circle, the how this happens at camp. And it's not just us, the Coleman and the Simmons. This happens to a lot of people, and it's fun to see. But those two kids were outstanding.
Well, the bloodline runs over at least 3 generations and maybe 4.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. That just, but those guys were great. We had so much fun with Jeff, and so many stories on that trip with him and Austin Gonzmuller, who's your nephew, and, your sister's son.
Austin.
Yeah. And then
all those guys are still great friends, and they still come up during the summer. And in fact, Austin is building a house there on Rainy Lake across from the Thunderbird Lodge, and so he's there. And then my grandson was up this summer with our great grandson and visiting with Austin, where he's building his new house over there across from Thunderbird.
Right. So, yeah.
There are 4 generations standing there.
It's great. It's great to see you guys every year up there. When I know I go up at the end, and if you weren't there, we would notice. Like if the Simmons family was not there, we notice right away. We look for them right away, and I know we're not the only ones that do that. Now the other, and I don't know this story. You're gonna have to remind me. What was going on with you and my dad? And for those that don't know, he was known as Bugsy at Camp Kooch. with the foxes, smoking the foxes out of their dens on the island. What was this all about?
Well, your dad and I were good friends, as well as kind of a camper counselor relationship. We got busy. I guess that we were thinking we had seen a fox out there going out along the bear trail or whatever it was called. And then just north of the big ball field, I think we thought we saw a fox den out there. And we kind of convinced ourselves by digging poop out of the hole in the ground and saying, oh yeah, this is fox poop. And so we decided we'd see if we just couldn't smoke that thing out. So we built a fire on one end, and then we found a hole on the other where we thought, well, maybe that fox could get away. So we plugged up the hole on the other side and put a bunch of moss in there and stuff and some dried kindling and lit it on fire. And sure enough, there was no fox coming out of the ground, and your dad had to go on a canoe trip. I wasn't going with him the next day. But sure enough, we put that fire out in the evening, and then bugs went off on a trip the next day, and I came out there just to make sure the fire wasn't out. And sure enough, there was smoke coming out of the hole on the other end of what I guess might have been the den. And I spent the next 2 days going back to that place and dumping water down the hole, trying to get the smoke to quit smoking or get the fire out. It did take 2 days to finally convince myself the fire was out, because I had to go on a canoe trip myself that third day. Anyway, I didn't want to leave there and have the fire catch the darn island on fire.
Was that your idea or his idea to trap the fox, smoke the fox?
I might have been just a joint dumb idea between us.
We're not going to throw anybody under the bus. I know you got a ton of stories. I want to get into the startup of Ogichi too, this great, wonderful girls camp that we have now. But before that, you were an Arctic trip member, correct? You took the Arctic?
Well, it did. Yeah, I went on the Hood River.
And who was with you on that trip? And what do you remember? I mean, what sticks out about that? I mean, we've got a lot of teams that do that now. You were one of the original groups that went up, I'm sure, Well,
the guys that I went on that trip with were some of my best friends and still are today. Notably, Jim Vandenbark and his brother Tom Vandenbark, and then a guy I grew up with who was my best friend in St. Louis, a guy by the name of Nelson Spencer.
Oh yeah,
and then there was Fred Patterson who was on that trip, since passed, and fellow by the name of Tom Bloom, who's still a doctor in Minneapolis. And let's see who else we had on that trip. I'm forgetting somebody. Anyway, Tom and Jim and Nelson had actually had taken an Arctic trip the year before. And I had been invited to that, and they went on the Coppermine River. And then there in 1966, we took a trip on the Hood River. Yeah.
How many days were you out? Do you remember?
Well, we left around, I'm going to say early June sometime, and we ended up about the 10th of August.
Okay. So
up on the Hood River, above Wilberforce Falls up there, which is a pretty significant falls. And then that was interesting for me because I had just graduated from college that year. with a degree in geology. And when we got to the end there, the Hood River, we really didn't have a good plan to get out off the Arctic coast there. We had no arrangement. We ran into a mining camp there toward the mouth of the Hood River, and the guy there, I became friends with the geologist that was kind of leading the mining crew there. And he said he was behind logging core samples. And he found out I was a geologist and asked me if I would help him log core, and if I'd help him kind of get caught up identifying the ore and stuff that's in the core samples. Then in turn, they'd give us a flight out they'd take our whole trip and fly us back to Yellowknife in the Northwest Territories. So that was kind of an unusual end of the trip.
Yeah.
And kind of the back end of that story is then I was back up in that same location, actually north of where we ended the trip, for the next 2 years afterwards. I was hired by the people that were running that company to come up there and do some mapping up there. And I actually turned that into my graduate thesis to get my master's degree. So anyway, one thing always leads to another.
That's right. But it was a great time. I'm sure you guys, great adventure, and something you guys. It's great you still got your friendship with all those guys, and of course the Vandenbergs. We all know that name too. With their kids going to camp too, and that's another group of some fun characters too, some colorful people.
Yeah, we all keep in touch still, and it's great friendships, and you have to say that about camp. It really builds some lifelong friendships.
Oh, some of the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In socially and in business, actually. So
without a doubt.
Been rewarding.
Yeah. So let's talk about you were one of the, if not the big players behind the startup of the Ogichi. Can you take us through how this all came about? I mean, this has been such a great success and such a great addition for the Camping and Education Foundation. And, I know you had a lot to do with that. And I think a lot of people would like to know and hear, how this all came about and your role in it. And obviously you've done a good thing here.
Well, it's really like any startup. It comes in bits and pieces. And actually there'd been maybe at least 2 other attempts to perhaps get a girls' camp off the ground. And actually one was led earlier on by Tom Vandenberg, who we went on the Arctic trip with, and a guy named Brad Schinkel. He had been a guy that was interested in that. And I guess what got me involved is as a younger geologist with the Amoco company, I was involved working on field parties and mapping parties in Alaska for a number of years. And we always had, from time to time, we'd have young women, young graduate geologists, female geologists assigned to our field parties or field expeditions in Alaska. And during those times, I always thought, damn, why doesn't Kooch have a girls' camp? And, I was aware that there had been some attempts to get one going. And then I guess one summer around 2001 or 2002, and I think it was the year before John Holden passed, he had come to me and said, George, do me a favor, don't forget about the girls.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was kind of an inspiration for me. And I remember by times working and camping with these girls in Alaska doing field work. And so in 2001, I got a group together in Cincinnati, and I was just kind of thinking about, you might ask about that today, but we got some people together in Cincinnati and started I guess, if you will, an initiative really to get that camp going. And the guy who probably was the impetus really to drive it at that time was Jay Stair. Jay Stair is no longer with us.
Yeah.
But he had called and said, would you help me start a girls' camp? I said, I'm glad to do it. But I said, we're going to have to get serious about it because there's been a couple of different run-ups to try to get that done. And it just loses momentum. And people would say, girls can't do this, girls can't do that. And I told them I'd be glad to jump in on this, but I don't want to just come away with spend a lot of time and get nothing done. And so I told him I'd be glad to head up a group to do that. And Jay said, I'm not going to be able to spend a lot of time with you. He said, I'd like to see a girls' camp start, but I'm not going to be able to really work with you on that. He says, I'm really busy with our family business. Anyway, we got a founders committee together with the idea, let's give it a shot. And I just was been looking at a piece of paper today, and I was able to get a number of people together, and we created a founders committee at that time. And some names you might recognize. I called Janet Vandenberg, which was Jim and Tom's sister.
Yeah, I know Janet, sure.
And she had been to a girls' camp, Northland camp out of Bemidji.
Okay.
And she had a great number of friends that she still kept in touch with. And I said, would you jump in on a committee to help start a girls' camp? And she was all about it. And then we had a longtime photographer and great friend, had always been around Koochiching, a fellow by the name of Ed Betts, who's no longer with us.
Mm-hmm.
And Ed was all excited about a girls' camp. And then we had a gal by the name of Karen Strauss, who had been a camper at Northland Camp with Janet Vandenberg. She was interested. An old-time guy that's, I think, maybe still on the foundation board, Jeff Patterson.
Yeah, I saw him last summer. Yeah, sure. Great guy.
Jeff had daughters, and he thought, a girls' camp would be great. So he got on this founders committee. And a fellow by the name of Terry Tierney, who was a son-in-law of Jim Woods.
Yes.
No longer with us, but Jim had been the president of the Camp Education Foundation. He was a great friend from St. Louis, I'd gone to high school with. And then, of course, Jim Shook, who was chairman of the foundation.
Yep.
And so Jim threw in with us, and off we went. And there were times when this little founders committee would meet, and we had people drop off from time to time. We'd have others that would join, but by the time we got really the camp, got it founded and got it blessed by the Camp and Education Foundation, we had a great time doing it. And,
now, at that time, was Rainy Lake Lodge, had we owned it when you guys started the?
That's where my parents stayed. And when my brother and I first went to
Right. Right.
Kooch that stayed at the lodge. In fact, the girls' camp, the director's cabin, sits right on top of my mother's ashes.
Oh, wow.
That are buried there at the girls' camp. But yeah, it was a great effort we made. I think we made some enemies along the way. There were a lot of people that said that there was no way girls could do trips like the boys do, and they couldn't carry a Wanigan, and that's all baloney, and the rest of it's history.
That's right.
The girls' camp has been off and running for 25 years. So,
and they're already taking trips to the Arctic. I mean, it's outstanding. I mean, to hear their stories and the fun that they're having just as much, it's great. I mean, and I know I have 3 sisters. I'm sure they would have loved to have been able to do this too back in their day,
It's a nice success story. And, there were just a lot of people as we started to gain some momentum and the idea started to catch on. There's been a lot of people step up and really be a part of that girls' camp.
Yeah.
Like any organization, maybe there's 1 or 2 people who get an idea and are willing to stand up and defend it and move it forward. And it was a natural thing.
Yeah.
And, the time we talked about starting the girls' camp, people said, well, you got to have some background about girls' camps. Well, that was easy to find because at the time, statistically, there were more girls in the United States attending overnight summer camps than there were boys.
Yeah.
So there was a market for it. There's always been a market for it. I think that, as you grew up at Kooch, where everybody was so gung-ho and was so masculine that nobody thought, well, the girls can do this, but
they're doing it. They're doing it all right.
They're doing it.
They're doing it. And I think, obviously your foundation group that got this going was the whole foundation of it. But I think from the outside looking in a little bit, not completely outside looking in, but a little bit, 2 of the people I think were key in this was our initial director, Kathy Dix, was a great person to have to start this thing.
She was on the founders committee.
Yep. I think she was great at that time, for our, to get this thing going, and did a great job. And then the other couple, they're good friends of mine, Bart and Peggy Vollmer. I mean, what they've done and the build out that Bart's done and Peggy right by his side. I mean, without them, I don't know where that place would be, just because I know what he does. He's incredible.
That's true, because Bart and Peggy had, been over at Kooch Ching, and Bart had been part of Kooch Ching for years. And I think after we got going about 3 years, 4th year maybe into the girls' camp, we couldn't get cooks. And so Peggy had volunteered to come over and cook. And Bart said, well, I want to go over there and be part of the build out, whatever of the girls' camp. And sure enough, he came over, and so much of the buildings that you see today on the campsite of Ogichi are thanks to Bart. I mean, he's put in a career there. And I would say he's literally as much of the founder of the girls' camp as anybody. I mean, there's not a screw or nail in any of those buildings that Bart didn't have his hands on.
That's right. Yeah.
And so and Peggy, she's run that kitchen and all the dietary portion of the camp. She's just really a great lady.
Oh, they're both great. They're great friends. And I know, I talk to them a lot, and they just absolutely love that place and love the kids there. And it's like, it's their own kids, that's how they treat them, but they're outstanding people. So,
great friends.
Yep. Good friend. So I got to ask you this too. I mean, Where did Jackie come from? I mean, anybody that know, right? Anybody that knows, I mean, what's up, Jackie?
Just growing up back in Webster, St. Louis, we had some friends that would wander through our neighborhood all the time, and we just refer to each other as Jack all the time. Still. And these boys would yell out and say, "Hey, what's up today, Jack?" And that just caught on. So,
well, and your kids knew about it, and they were like a chip off of you. I don't know if you know this or not, but I remember you doing the Boogerman dance at Kooch, and of course your patented rolling the stomach, which was hilarious. But we had a little kid come to a camp. It was a little dinky prep one year named Curtis. And he got up on a diving board and rolled his stomach and did a 1.5 flip off the diving board. I said, "That's a Simmons right there. That's George's boy right there." he rolled his stomach just like you did. I was losing it. It was so good. But
Curtis has been a great friend, and I didn't mention Curtis here associated with the girls' camp, but he was all about it. And I can tell you that when we first got down to talking about the girls' camp and how we were going to get that launched, and it wasn't easy. There was a lot of resistance from people, kind of people who couldn't understand that girls could do the Kooch kind of tripping and whatever. But anyway, when we first decided, we're going to have a first inaugural girls canoe trip, we wondered, well, who's going to lead the darn thing? And the first guy came to my mind was Curtis. Mm-hmm. And then we thought, well, who else could do that? And we thought of another one of Curtis's good friends, Hank Banger.
Hank Banger, sure.
If I understand it now, Hank has 4 girls or something that go to Ogichi.
Okay.
And but Hank and Kurt took the first girls trip out.
Where did they go? Do you remember?
They went on the Turtle River.
Turtle River. Okay.
Yeah. And of course, you're going to take 10 teenage girls, and Kurt, I think, was only like 18 at the time, and Hank Banger was maybe a year younger. So now we were going to take 10 teenage girls, and the oldest one actually was 17, I think, on a school bus across the Canadian border there, and go on the Turtle River. And we got thinking, well, how these 2 older teenage guys with this busload of girls going to get through customs without being questioned? Well, we thought, best thing, we better get a couple of adult women, probably older than those boys, to go on a trip. So we got Kathy Dix.
That's what I thought was one.
Always been behind that. She's always been on the founders committee for a girls' camp. She said, I'll go. And then another gal by the name of Karen Strauss, who had been a camper with Janet Vandenbark back in the day, and at Northland. So those 2 guys, Hank and Curtis and Kathy and Karen, took these 10 girls on the Turtle River for 10 days, and it was a hit. The rest is history.
That's great. But great.
We had some, and on that trip, we had. I'm just trying to think. Anyway, there's still some girls associated with girls' camp, and who actually years later took an Arctic trip.
Okay.
That had been on that trip, and the names escape me now, but it worked.
Right.
So,
That kicked it off, and it's, how strong it is now. It's great. So let's go back to your Kooch days. I mean, anything that sticks out, George? That trips or people or, what this place has done for you in your life outside of camp. I mean, what do you contribute camp to helping you with? Anything like that? I know I just fired about 8 questions at you there, but I'll let you take it from there.
You have some special people that you remembered from camp, and people who you idolized and whatever. And I guess one of them for me was John Holden, who again was one who came to me and said, do me a favor and don't forget getting behind the girls' camp. And so that certainly is a person who's been, just his demeanor, the way he did things, the way he managed, was an inspiration for my adult life. And I miss the guy terrible still.
You know how brilliant he was, George, but what makes me think that he's even more brilliant is that now we know he picked the right guy to head this up in you. And he was smart enough to do things like that and know who to pick and who to give and to know that it was going to get done. And I commend him that he chose you and said that to you. And obviously you were the right guy, because look where we are today. So I hear you about John. He was a great man.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's another person. And I guess to me, what makes my memories great of anything I've ever been involved in is the people that are involved. And so, you have John Holden, and then as far as camp goes, a guy that I admired growing up and became, I guess, one of my very closest friends was Tim Heinley.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Tim is gone too early, but Tim and I just became great friends at camp. Later, when he lived in Colorado, and even before he lived there, we skied together, and our families, tripped around together. We were on the board together of camp 3 years, and of the foundation. And of course, he was the chair of the foundation for several times, and then he was the director of Kooch and all of that. But anyway, that's a guy who just the lifelong values that we both shared. And I miss Tim to this day, and still see Joan Heinley once a week, either in the summer or down here in Florida. She lives not far from us.
Yeah.
And then, of course, her sons, Tim and Steve, and Cindy, of course, his daughter. And anyway, that Heinley family has just been a great memory for me.
Yeah, they're special. I understand where you're coming from. Tim and my mom were in the same kindergarten class together.
Yeah.
That's how far back they go. And I know I think my father was in their wedding even. And then of course, Steve and I are best of friends from camp. So
right.
I certainly hear what you're saying about, and we do miss him terribly.
Yeah. And then another relationship, of course, is your dad, Bugs, and your mom. I mean, those memories, being canoeing with Bugs and and your mother, and during preseason would always prepare and get lunch together for anybody that was around the island preseason, a month before camp started. And it's just, and they're a great part of my memories, Bugs and Mimi. And of course, then your brothers and sisters, same way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I guess the whole Kooch experience has been just families that we've known all those years, and still see them. We see their grandkids at camp, and yeah, that's it's
I
it,
love seeing the Simmons name.
the whole camp experience is the relationships you
No doubt.
make with people. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, look at the friendship you and I have after all these years.
It's great.
Yeah.
Well, I used to
mean,
call Tim a lot, and now you now I'm doing this with you, to get a couple
there you go.
chuckles here and there about some old things here and there.
Yes, we have some of the rotative games and things.
Oh yeah. So, hey, real quick, I've heard you say so many stories, and I know we've got to be careful with the stories we share, but anything that jumps out that was just so funny, that you remember it all from camp? I'm sure there's so many, it's hard for you to pull one or two out, but I don't know. You and I have been walking down the path, and you'll break one out, and I just I'm on the ground laughing. I can't stop laughing. And then Tim Heinley saw us laughing, and he ran over and said, "Hey, what's going on here? I need to hear what just happened." And
Yeah.
I don't know if you can remember anything or not that jumps out with the Vandenbergs. There was a story about a bear that someone put a bear in Holden's cabin. Was that true?
Yeah, but that I didn't have anything to do with that. We actually brought a bear from Rainy Lake Lodge one evening right before Grand Council. Kind of a dumb stunt.
It was a cub, though.
Yeah, there were a couple of bear cubs that were growing up over at the old Rainy Lake Lodge where the girls' camp is now.
Yeah,
those cubs were feeding in the garbage dump up there where the shop is actually for the girls' camp, and so we thought we'd bring a cub over to camp. Really a kind of a dumb idea, but
where'd you put it?
Well, the thing was, we went up and grabbed this cub over at Rainy Lake Lodge, and we brought it and put it in a storm boat, and we brought it over to Kooch. We thought that might be cute. And by the time we got over there, John Holden was already standing on the main dock.
Okay.
And said, "You boys, you get that bear back over to Rainy Lake Lodge." But by the time we got back over there, the mother was down on the main dock of Rainy Lake Lodge, where the swimming dock is now for the girls' camp. And that bear boy was standing up and hind feet and smelling, and the smell was coming. And we just kind of cruised by the dock and threw the cub in the water. And John Holden was really mad. That was not a good stunt.
Well, I'm sure he had some chores for you the next day. That's the way he was, He kind of knew what was going on, and you had to pay the piper the next day.
Yeah, not such a good idea.
Well, is there any one other one that jumps out? I won't go too much longer, but.
Well, there is one. Probably 6 of us when we were on the staff. We're going to go over to Canada. And
so this is like early 60s.
Yeah, the idea came up to hassle the Border Patrol people. I don't know why we had that idea, but we got in the car of Doc Holliday's.
Oh,
Doc
Holliday. Man, there's a great name from the past.
Doc Holliday had a little Ford Falcon, and you could barely get 6 people in that car, and so we didn't actually. So we were going to just kind of go over and hassle with the Border Patrol. Well, there were 6 of us, and 4 of us were in the car, and 2 people got in the trunk of the car. And so we went flying over the bridge to the Canadian side, circled around the Canadian place where you're supposed to stop, circled the car around and sped back over the U.S. side. We never stopped at the customs. We just circled their customs building. But by the time we got back over to the U.S. side, driving across, boy, the red lights were flashing and people, the U.S. customs guys were standing blocking the road. And we got over there and, you know how they come up to the car and say, "Where you guys been?" Well, that didn't work out so well. Joe Holliday, who was driving the car, he looked out at the custom guy and said, in answer to his question, where he been, he said, "We've been to Canada. What's it to you?" And the guy said, "Get out, everybody come inside." And anyway, we all got an official reprimand from the United States government. And by the time we got back to camp that night, John Holden seems to know when trouble's coming, just like with the bear. He's standing on the dock to meet us. And he says, "Okay, you boys, I'll talk to you in the morning. You better go to your cabins." And anyway, that just was not a good stunt, you know.
No, and probably not a fun night's sleep for you that night either.
Yeah, yeah. We spent a lot of time picking up shells down in the rifle range.
Oh yeah. Hauling pop, doing something.
Mm.
Well, George, you know, we could go on forever, I know, but I want to end this today to say just a few things. You know, obviously you've given so much of your time and talent and treasure to this place, both the Kooch and Ogichi and the whole foundation. And you did it so you know, I was a young kid, I could enjoy it, and your kids could enjoy it. And you know, I think I speak for everybody to say how grateful we are for people like you and the other ones that have done that. And it's fun for me to come back and do these things now and to meet with our alumni and to be a part of it. Because I think it's our turn now to carry the torch that you guys have carried to get us to where we are now. And, you know, I just hope a lot of the people from my era and the eras before me are ready to step up and share some of these stories and to help carry this place that's still doing so much to touch the boys and girls, the young kids, and helping them out. And if there's ever a time that we need a camp with today's world, with technology and what have you, now's the time. And now's the time that we really need to step up and make this place great. And again, I can't thank you enough for, you know, all you've done for camp. Most importantly, for being a good friend of mine and being a great friend of my family's and my parents. And I just can't wait to get back up to see you again next summer. And I'm sure I'll be calling you quite a bit so we can make sure we got the proper rotative games and little council games ready to go for that evening. So, but hey, thanks, George. What's that?
It's been fun, Cole.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. We didn't even mention Boys of Winter. We can talk about that.
That's a whole nother story. Right?
Yeah.
But listen, well, we can do another one eventually about the Boys of Winter. We can come back and do this again, but give our best to Ruthie, George. You're the best, man. We love you. And, you know, can't wait to cross paths here again soon.
Thanks, Cole.
All right, buddy. We'll talk.
Take care, pal. Love you. See ya.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.